Welcome, fam. We are doing the first of our monthly panel podcast for the anti MLM movement. And so I have here Meggan, and I also have here Gladys. Meggan owns the MLM Recovery Podcast, so make sure you check her out on Instagram and YouTube. Unfortunately, Amway has been hitting her pretty hard, so make sure you go over and support her. Also, Gladys over on MLM Exit on Instagram. She's got quite a following over there, and she also does YouTube as well. So make sure you guys support her on her channels as well. So, what we're talking about today is the morality of MLMs. Um, I have a little bit of experience, not as much as Meggan does and Gladys, but I do have a little bit of experience, a couple months, and but I will let Meggan go first, and then Gladys you'll go next, and then I will go last, and we will kind of just come together, just share our experiences. So go ahead, take it away, Meggan.
Thanks so much, Jonah. Yeah, so I was in Amway for 14 years, part of LTD, which is Leadership Team Development, which, if you all remember, they are the ones who their leader recently was um, basically suspended from Amway for uh, I don't know how long, hopefully forever. But but yeah, so I was part of LTD and I was there for 14 years and so I basically spent my 20s and part of my 30s in Amway. And I've been out now, we're going on 3 years, and I'm very excited. And so after getting out, I wanted to be able to help people. And I can talk about all the details. I like talking about the legal side of things and a lot of different things within. So I started a podcast that I'm, really enjoying. And I'm finding a lot of enjoyment just in life, which it goes against, the unspoken Amway rules. And I absolutely love every day of being a rebel in that way and enjoying my life. So um, we there's a lot of different stories that I will happily share as we get into it, but that's a little bit about my experience.
Good deal. All right, well, appreciate that, Meggan. Gladys, what about you?
Well, I personally haven't had an experience being in an MLM. I have been invited to a few times, and I was pretty close to joining one time. But lucky for me, I have a lot of, um, I guess, a bad habit of searching. Like when I have to like make a big decision, I like to search like about the company and everything. And it was kind of suspicious for me. This was for a travel MLM. And back then I was a travel advisor. I had like my own business being a travel advisor. And I was like, well, that goes along with, what I like, which is traveling, right? So it made sense to me, but I start searching for the company and I find it so suspicious that all the good reviews that I found were coming from people that were still in the company. So I was like, well, that's pretty biased, right? So I was like, yeah, there was just something that it was like telling me, no, don't do it. This is not gonna go good. And I'm glad that I followed my gut because I later found out it was what's the name of this travel company? Anyways, I don't remember at this moment, but it was it was one of those IntelliTravel. Well, I don't remember. Anyways, but yeah, so one of the things that happened is that in 2019 I bumped into Kiki Chanel's channel by mistake and I started watching her anti-MLM content and I was like, "What?" Because I mean, I knew about multi-level marketing companies, but I thought they were like harmless, I guess. They were just people trying to make money. And when I started watching her videos, I was like, wow, this is really bad. And I was watching Entamlim content for a while, and I think I noticed that there was a lot of information that was not available for the Spanish people, Spanish speaking people community. And I was like, it would be good if all this information was in Spanish. So I was thinking about creating content. I thought about it like for a while. And the moment that I saw Josie's video, I don't know if you guys have seen it, because she was the very first person that spoke out from being at the top of the MLM. And this was like years ago. It was like around during the pandemic. And the moment that I saw her video, I was like, yeah, I need to create content. Like she gave me that push that I needed to be like, yeah, I need to create content, because her video was just so powerful and just, you know. So I started creating content, and I've been creating content since then. And I also have a website that I'm very proud of, where if you want to learn about like MLMs, there's like this section that it's the educational section, where you can see like a bunch of videos that I say they're like a must watch. Or if you are looking for maybe a ways to get out of your MLM, there's tools there that will be helpful for you in case you're looking for like a way to get out of your MLM. So there's a lot of resources there, a lot like legal, if you're looking for like a class action lawyer, or it's like a lot of resources if you want to report something, like a lot of government links and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what I've been working the last few years, and I'm very happy that you invited me here. So I appreciate you.
Absolutely. I am so glad to have all of you guys here. A lot of experience, and I'll absolutely link the description to Gladys's website down below so you guys can check that out. I'm telling you, there's a lot of info there, and it's super, super, super helpful. So make sure you guys check that link in the description. I'll be sure to put that down below. So morality, you actually touched on it, and I kind of want to expand on it a little bit. So a lot of what we see from recruiters specifically is that they will do and say anything just to get someone into this cult, right? And oftentimes they know which people to target, and that's typically vulnerable, desperate people who are looking to get out of whatever situation they're looking to get out of. And they're like sharks in the water. They can smell that from a mile away. I remember I was going through college. Uh, it was last year. Yeah. Yeah. This time last year, actually. I was going through college, and it was my second semester, and I get approached by this weird dude. Right? I'd never seen this guy in my entire life. He just approached us. He was like, "Hey, I have a business opportunity." And immediately I was like, "This is a little weird. This is a little weird. All right, you're not going to take me behind the Walmart, right? You're actually going to give me a business opportunity. Is this what this is? You know?" And it, yeah, I completely fell for it. Because I was looking for a way to get, or not get out of my financial situation, but find a better way to have a better stream of income, right? And that's what they always like to use too. Second stream of income, a second source of income, stuff like that. Excuse me. And so they could sense that on me, that I was looking for something, right? I was hungry to um, be better, or make more money, and they completely fell on that, and they threw a bunch of numbers at me, really confusing me, because they try to confuse you as much as possible, right? And throw as many titles at you as much as possible to give them credentials so that you believe them. And when you do believe them, that is when they start to, sink their claws into you a little bit deeper. And then when they think they have you there, because they always test you, right? That's what they told me. We got to make sure that you want to be in the business. So we're going to go ahead and pay for your audios, right? Because we're such good people. We're such good people. We're gonna pay for your audios. Uh,
I'm so sorry.
well,
I'm so
this is
sorry. I was trying not to disappear, and then
this is a little bit of a conundrum.
I'm so sorry, you guys.
This should have been a Marvel, podcast. We got Spider Woman over here.
Oh my god. I was like, keep it cool. This is too funny. But you guys helped me.
I had to tell myself to keep
Oh,
going, and I just couldn't. I just couldn't push through it. I just couldn't.
so sorry.
This is
I'm
staying
so
in there, by the
sorry.
way.
I'm trying to fix it.
Perfect.
Yay, we did it.
We should roll like that for a little bit. So they could absolutely sense that I was desperate to get out of my situation. They let it play out for a while, and then when they finally felt comfortable enough to introduce themselves to who I was, or who they were, who we are, and yeah, so when they finally felt comfortable enough to introduce who they actually were, it was already too late. I was already pretty convinced. So it's the lack of morality that is there. What about you, Meggan? What do you say?
Can you hear me okay? I heard my audio go weird. Okay, cool. So, yeah, I feel like there's a point where they all hit that it's like the higher you get, the less morality you have. And it's not across the board always that way. It's just that um I don't know. Maybe I kind of equate it to um like once you're in their club, you have to prove that you're going to stay in their club and that like that you're basically willing to leave morality behind so that you can just further the business more. So there's a lot I could say about that, but um I just they let go of the morality that they pretend to have early on so that they can then just, you know, get profit instead. So it's like profit over people, you know, like selfish desires over actual morality. And I always struggled with that too, like, but I didn't know how to like describe it when I was actually in. So I kept thinking, like, okay, I see these people kind of going without. I could just start to see some of the writing on the wall, yet like I have to do more of this in order to get there. I'm just like it didn't make sense because they would be on the stage preaching all of these like things like, we're just such good people. We help people. We're, giving away a lot of our income, doing all these things. But yet, like, it never made sense. It was like their own rules. And the morality, like, they they basically say like whatever they want to make themselves feel better, but then when rubber meets the road, they're doing everything that they can to just fill their own pockets, and use us as the pawns for that. Um, I have a lot of like aggressive thoughts about that.
I think we all do, don't we? I completely agree with that. Gladys, what about you?
Well, I might have a different perspective, maybe coming from somebody that was not necessarily there. And one of the things that I always like to give when I'm creating content is give the reps the benefit of the doubt, because I know that the big majority of them, they truly believe in their heart that they're doing the right thing. There are just very few at the top, the ones that are making the money, the real money, um, that really don't have any type of morals, because I truly believe that once you get to a certain point, like in the beginning, um, you start with your best intentions and then you start climbing, but there must be a point where you're gonna realize what's going on, and that's when you have to either do the right thing, which is getting out, or if you're making enough money, maybe that will justify maybe to continue and be and now becoming what we call a lot of them scammers, right? And I
Mm.
don't like to call them scammers. I try not to do it when I'm creating my content. But at that point, when you realize what's going on and you choose to continue doing it, then you really become a scammer, in my eyes, at least. So the way that I see it is the people that are at the bottom, which is the majority of them, right? I think more than like morality, um, I think they just start normalizing behaviors that maybe in the regular day they wouldn't, like approaching, like in both of your cases, like approaching a random person at Target or Walmart or in the street wherever. Like that's not normal behavior, and say, "Oh, I like your shoes. Oh, I like your scarf." Blah blah blah. That's not normal. But the fact that you're doing it and everybody else around you is doing it, you kind of like normalize it. And it's um th- those type of like behaviors that you just start doing, even though it could be like icky, like maybe, I don't know, lying or white lies, if you want to call them, but you're like justifying it to yourself, saying, well, it's for a good cause. I want to help them. You start normalizing a lot of those behaviors that in your heart, you know that there's something fishy there. I don't know. That's the way that I see it. Of course, the people at the top, they know exactly what's going on, and for them, it's like, I don't care who I have to hurt or who's gonna be going um, through bankruptcy, who's gonna be getting another loan. All I care is my paycheck, and
Yep.
that's not cool for the people at the top. I have no respect for them.
I have intense animosity towards this. I don't see them as human. I see them as rats. Let's be honest. That's all I see them as, because that's exactly what they are. Uh, now, I agree with you to an extent um, with the people at the bottom. Now, what I will say is that that there are quite a few people that do believe, what they're doing is right. That is true. Uh, but I also agree with you on the scamming thing. That when people realize what's actually going on and they continue to do so, that's when they become a scammer, right? So I had a couple of people in my upline who knew halfway what they were doing. Uh, but regardless of you know, regardless of where they stood, um, if you are again, if you're still in and you have just an inkling that something isn't right and you continue on, right, then that becomes a problem. I see you as a scammer just as much, right? um and it's when you finally come around and wake up and you leave is when I begin to see you differently, right? Because it's the same thing when it comes to a cult, right? When someone is questions one thing, but then they try so hard to silence that questioning, right? They're still in that cult. So how can you trust them? You know? And it's only until they realize, hey, all of this is a lie, I'm walking away from it all, is when you begin to really, okay, all right, this seems like this person's kind of changed. So it's not really any animosity that I hold towards people who are questioning, right? I don't hold any animosity towards them at all because they've been juked just like me and Meggan here. Um, but it's also the fact that what are you going to do about it? Are you going to research about it? Are you going to continue to question, or are you going to kill those questions, right, and stick with the program, right? That's how I look at that. And I guess I could have worded that a little bit better. But I look at my upline because I said I had quite a bit of this, quite a bit of this scenario happen, and I'm a very direct, very upfront person. You guys know this, and as soon as I figured out what was actually going on, I confronted almost everyone, and I was not nice about it. And the first thing I heard from my upline's upline was sorry. That's how I knew right then and there that there are people who are okay with scamming people. They may not know exactly what's going on, but they know something isn't right, and yet they continue going on down the road that they're going down. Right. So um it's questions of morals. Where is your integrity? Where is your morality at when it comes to this issue? So that's what I think everyone should be looking into, whether they're in an MLM, coming out of an MLM, right, or going into an MLM. So, Meggan, what do you think made you question, or what was the biggest question for you that made you really start to think, okay, are these people as good of a person as they say they are?
Honestly, it was a lot over time, but it was the way that my upline would treat my mom. So I brought my mom with me, and I had to push my mom in a wheelchair because of her back. It was really painful, and I am my mother's caretaker, so I'm very protective of her. And she raised me by herself after my dad passed when I was little. So now that I am taking care of my mom, I'm very protective. And so when I brought her to some meetings, um, I remember my upline's upline, she was very much like she needs like all the women to adore her and have like a group of women around her, just very catty and petty, kind of like mean girl. And so me in my at the time naive mind was thinking, okay, I need her to uh love me. And so as I brought my mom around, her first reaction was like, "Oh, is she getting started?" And I was like, I don't know, because at the time she wasn't able to work. So it was like, why would you ask me that really? Like, my mom wanted to support me and come around to some meetings and stuff. And so, as my mom would come around every so often, it became less of, it was never really like, I'm glad that she's here. It was more like, is she coming to function? Is she going to get her ticket? Did she buy any products? And it was like always just asking about that instead of like, glad you're here, and thanks for coming. And so she acted like my mom was in the way. Um, Now, all of us, we were in our 20s, and nobody really had any kinds of issues where, you know, we were all, very lucky physically. Like, nobody had any physical ailments directly. It was more like, everybody was able bodied and all kinds of things. So, bringing somebody into a place that needed a wheelchair it was just such a huge, like, burden on her. And, she just acted like my mom was in the way. And that was kind of like, that kind of put that little seed of what in my head. Like, I was really kind of upset at the way that she was treating my mom. And my mom was even telling me, like, she just acts like I'm in the way. And I'm like, Mom, you're more than welcome here. You're, part of my support system. Please be here. And so, um, that kind of started that. But then also that girl had a really negative relationship with her mom. So I realized, okay, maybe she's just, lashing out at me for being close to my mom. And so that kind of started everything, seeing her and then others also act like, why is she here? Because my mom wasn't producing, wasn't doing any PV. So she was just a waste of space, in their opinion. And that really pissed me off. And so, but it was one of those things that I kind of pushed off to the side. I was like, I'm just going to build a business and get successful and etc. So, uh, it everything kind of culminated later on, and that's kind of another story. But that really started the seeds of doubt, as they say, in my mind. Because of the way that they were acting about, just somebody needing a little bit of extra space, or, uh, you know, just the huge inconvenience. And I was like, mm-mm. But after a few more years, I was starting to see more things. I was like, okay, this is kind of all adding up. So I eventually got out, of course, but that's really where it started.
Okay. I can only imagine. Well, actually, no, I can imagine what that feels like. When I was growing up, my mom had married her second husband, and that side of the family was not very kind to us. And I remember they would insult my mother quite a few times during family gatherings. And so, someone that you would believe is family, and even that family says that they're family, and welcoming you into this family they're supposed to be welcoming you into, but they're instead insulting your own mother because she's not producing. A woman who's disabled. Oh, I would be livid. I would absolutely be livid. But again, I can relate a little bit. Um, my mother isn't disabled, but she's been through a lot, and to do that to her when she's undeserving of it, it's really messed up. It really shows who those kinds of people are, you know, and that's what's the most disappointing is when you think something is happening, something good, not just for you, but for your entire family and your friends. It turns out that it's just this whirlpool of chaos and misery. And you may even begin to question your own morality. I think it's the biggest mind fuck of all.
I was just gonna say that to go along with that, like, I had by that point been lulled to a state of, well, I don't know what's right, or just trying to give
Mm,
people too much benefit of the doubt. I had been definitely lulled there because when you're a few years, even like a couple years in, you're just like, okay, I want to be successful and I want to impress my upline. So they didn't mean that. They didn't mean it that way. Oh, I'm sure somebody misunderstood. And I was trained over that time to always point the fingers back at myself, because one time I brought a problem to my upline. I was like, why do you act this way toward me? And she was like, "Well, I think you need to evaluate what's, your self-image or something like this." And I'm like, "Seriously?" I was, a strong person before I got in the business, but I got weakened by being lulled into a state of, like, just giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. And so when that was going on with my mom, I was like, well, maybe my mom misunderstood. She, is being too emotional about it or whatever. And then it just became more real to me over time. I was like, wait a minute, that actually happened. And I wasn't upset. But now if somebody were to try to, mess with my mom or, make her feel like she's in the way. Like we went to a restaurant the other night and a couple people were staring and I told my mom, I feel like standing up and saying, "Okay, everybody, you want to watch while she gets situated here?" Just to be sarcastic. Like people, I understand people kind of will stare at something they're not sure what's going on, but at the same time, I'm like we're supposed to be adults and you just like, making people feel uncomfortable because they rolled in instead of walked in and that was the kind of thing that was going on and so like I myself having been in that lulled state it's just like I there was so much I didn't notice until I got out and they do that. They know what they're doing, which goes into the whole morality thing.
It's a really good point. You know, it's the power. They oftentimes when people do this kind of things because they have no control in their lives, so whatever they can control, other people, then that is what's going to get the full brunt of all of their frustrations, their animosity towards life, towards what happened with them. And you said she didn't have a good relationship with her mother, so that came out in, you and your mother, right? People are very jealous when they see someone else happy and they want nothing but to be happy. And they're okay with destroying people's lives to make them as miserable as they are. It's unfortunate, but that's how a lot of people are. Because people, it seems as though people never grow up today. And you see that more and more in situations like cults, such as MLMs. So, with that, Gladys, I want to know what you have to say on that.
I think that it's important to also talk about the owners of these MLMs because
Yep.
when I when we're talking about morality, you also have to look at them. And even though one of the things that I like to tell people is yes, the owners could tell you whatever it is that they want to tell you, that sounds good, but you need to look at their actions. You need to look at what they're doing, what they're saying. And let's not go very far. We're going to talk about two MLM owners. One of them is Carl Deichler, which was the owner of Body, which was closed down the MLM site. He called the reps unsophisticated volunteer sales force. How could you be a rep in those moments and hear him say that and not be fucking rage? Because I was so fucking mad when I heard him. He not only called him volunteer sales force, but unsophisticated. And the recording is still there because it was one of those calls that they did like every quarter or something that he did with the investors and stuff like that. So it's still online. So everything is public. And just I'm like, how can you hear the owner of the company say that about you and not be fucking mad and get the hell out of there? You know what I'm saying? Like how? Like even if they say that they love you or whatever the case, right? And let's talk about the owner of Sensi, which it's going down. And he's been doing so much to take his company down. Like you just need to like follow everything that's going on. But he had the audacity to call his own Sensi consultants ignorant, dumb, and what other thing he said? Oh yeah, that they were not intelligent enough. How can you be a Sensi rep? Listen to this guy with his own face and his own words saying that and still be okay with continuing with the company. Like how? The guy just called you dumb, ignorant, and unintelligent. Like how?
I probably would have reacted the same way you did. See, this is why I like having both of you guys on. Especially you, Gladys, because you get right to the point with all of the CEOs and everything, right? The quote unquote leaders, and I think that's something that people who are coming out of MLMs kind of lose sight on, because we see what goes on around us with our uplines and our uplines, right? And we don't really take a step back as much as what we should do, and I'm guilty of this. I know I'm guilty of this all the time. And really um point the finger back at who really deserves it, right? And it's people that are scamming. And typically it's going to be more the people who are at the top of the MLMs. Um Larry and Pam Winters, with their apology video that they did a while ago. Right. Right. Apology video they did a while ago, which I actually wanted to bring up, but it kept slipping my mind because, I see shiny things and I go and chase after it. Um, so, but that's something that we should talk about as well, is because Gladys, did you ever see the apology video from Larry and Pam?
Oh yeah.
You did.
Somebody sent it to me, and then oh yeah, I think TJ sent it to me. And I was like, "What?" And then I think that's when I saw Megan upload it, and I was like, "Yeah, let's share it." Because I figured that they were either gonna delete it or do some crazy shit, because this was not normal behavior. You can see that it's fake as fuck. Like it's totally scripted. It's kind of like they're doing it because something is going on in Amway. They probably told them, "Hey, you need to do this shit," or whatever it is that was gonna happen to them, right? I don't know. Maybe they were gonna lose the business or whatever, but they probably put them into a corner which they didn't have a lot of options but to do it or do it, right? But yeah, it's apology, non-apology, and it's fake as fuck.
I was gonna say, it looked more like a hostage situation than
Yeah.
it did an apology video, because it looked like it looked like they were holding Pam Winter's adrenochrome injections hostage. They were just like dangling it right in front of her. You read this script, you fuck up once, and you're done. You're done. You're gonna turn to dust, you old hag. Um, but and then Larry, it just seemed like first of all, I just couldn't see it seems like he couldn't read at all, because he would stumble on almost every single word. But what I got from it was that they couldn't even, once they got comfortable enough, it seemed like they were like they couldn't be bothered, right, to give this apology video. And they know exactly what they did, especially at the last summer conference. They knew that. They knew how they acted. I saw how they were embarrassing people in front of hundreds or thousands of people. And as awkward as it was, we were it was just it was awkward. And the people that are coming to Larry and Pam are looking for advice, and they think that they are doing the right thing. They think that they're going somewhere. But the only place that they're going is somewhere to be made fun of. And I think that has a lot to do with social class. When people who don't deserve the social class that they're in, they really show it, you know? Because there are plenty of examples of people who are, really kind people, when even and they don't change whether they're poor or rich, right? But I think having such an ability to extort people in the way that they do changes not just their lifestyles, but it changes their very mentality, right? Uh, and that's what I would say is what led to MLMs in the first place, a way to make money fast off of other people. But I think that's been a practice for millennia, you know. But we should absolutely pay just as much attention to these these CEOs who start up these MLMs and the FTC, of course, right, and also who they lobby to. But we should pay attention to all that stuff just as much as we do, the recruiters, right? So, what do you guys have to say about that?
I agree. And I've actually, in the background, just some research I've been doing is looking into one of the lobbying firms that basically is there to protect MLMs. And so I'll have more like to talk, like to actually say about that as time goes on. But it's just really interesting how they and attorneys who will are there to defend MLMs are actually thinking. Like you can have something objective like the law and then have separate interpretations of it. Some are more ethical than others and it's just there's I mean, I would be one to just love to outlaw multi-level marketing, but I being real, I don't know that that's going to happen. It's just going to have to die down from within. But which is why, people like Gladys and Jonah and, those of us who are doing our part to get the word out are so important because, that it's like the street team of everything, like of our anti-MLM message like um we're the ones who are going to make the bigger difference because it just seems like politicians are bought out, a whole other story, of course. But also these lobbying firms, like they're not going to stop because that's where their money is. These attorneys are going to find a way to defend it. And it's like, why can't we use that brain power for good? But yet there's just so much that's engineered to hurt people. And this is definitely one of those things. Um, I I have a lot to say about that, but I'll have more to talk about with the lobbying firm specifically. But um, there's a lot that is just disgusting about all of it. The way that it's set up to for us to get involved and then be victims of it.
Hmm.
And ugh, yeah,
I would
I'm a little bit
say,
enraged right now about it.
oh, I'm always angry. um, but I would say that pain and fear is what makes money, and these people know that, and so they're going to take full advantage of it. You know, it's unfortunate, but it says a lot more about this culture than it does about the individual, because all of us are not in for one another, right? Not for the collective. We're in for the individual. The individuality within people is not such a bad thing, but when it overrides collectivism, that's when things become really, really bad. Every society needs a healthy balance of collectivism and individualism, because too much collectivism, you don't have civil rights. Too much individualism, you don't have any boundaries, any laws. You know, and so there needs to be a healthy boundary. But all of that goes out the window when we allow MLMs to continue to operate. But you were talking about lobbying and lobbying groups. Well, Stanton Park Group is one of them, and Amway uses Stanton Park Group quite a bit. So they lobby, they pay out certain politicians. I know Ron is it Ron Whitman? Is it? I think it might be Ron Whitman, but I remember seeing I could be wrong. I could be wrong, and I don't want to drop names, but I do remember that name being at the top of the list from what I saw on Open Secrets, which you guys might want to check out. I'll also put the link down in the description below for Open Secrets, so you guys can take a look at it yourself. Uh, but they will absolutely lobby to keep the money train flowing, and whoever they have to pay out, they will absolutely pay out until they can't do it anymore. Then they will move to another scam. Right? These people, that's all that they do. What I've come to realize is that when it comes to social class, those who are considered elites are just those who want to leech off of everyone else, right? Instead of doing what they can for the society to make the society better, they would much rather create a society full of fear, anger, depression, and create all of the toxic ways to make money instead of truly trying to prosper people. And I think that is the worst thing you can do, because that's not going to create money. That's going to force people to pay. And when you force people to pay, they only pay the bare minimum. So people buy more when they're happy. This is basic economics, you know. But these people, they don't care about basic economics. They don't care about the well-being of other people. They only care about themselves. And that is what really needs to be exposed more of, because I don't see hardly any other content creators other than a few, just like you and I, who are exposing any of this. Now, it's good that, we're talking about other things, such as, what's happened in the past 24 hours with a certain person getting us involved in a shit fest that we shouldn't be involved in. It's good to talk about all that stuff too, but when we have 14.6 million Americans who are affected by MLMs, that becomes a problem, and that needs to be talked about just as much. So, Gladys, what would I'll start with you, Gladys. What do you think? Because I always like to talk about solutions for the problem, instead of just talking about the problem. So, what solutions do you think we can pursue here to fix this problem?
Well, I was actually thinking about when you were talking about lobbyists and all that. I was thinking about the new legislation that was introduced in Delaware. I don't know if you're aware of it, the
Mm-mm.
HB 162. That was I don't know, it was late last year. I don't remember exactly when. But we had a lot of people because they did this like hearing or something like that. It's I can share the link if you want it. I've been
Sure.
wanting to do a video about it. It's like 1 hour. And the most ironic part about this is that this was created for consumer protection, right? And
Mm.
you would think that the Direct Selling Association will be in favor of consumer protection, right? But we all know that the fucking DSA is fucking in the side of MLMs. So why would you go against a new legislation that is going to protect consumers? Like that doesn't make sense, you know what I'm saying? And the the hearing, it was pretty cool because you were able, or the people there, they were able to hear like both sides, like the people that were in favor of it, and then the people that were harmed by it. There were a lot of people there sharing their stories, which, oh my god, their stories were so powerful. And their stories is pretty much the reason why I want to make the video. More than the fucking DSA coming up with their same old excuses that it's just some bad apples. Not all MLMs are the same, blah, blah, bullshit that they always say. No, but the stories from those people, wow, they were so powerful. Anyways, so what I was going is that one of the things that we've been doing is when we see those type of things that can bring some consumer protection, we've been participating. We've been like raising awareness on them. I've been doing it since I was way before I was creating content. Like I don't know how many years, probably 5, 6 years ago, there was a moment when we were able to write to the FTC to let them know like why we thought um, MLMs were an issue. And I think back then we were able to, we did like a 24-hour anti-MLM content creators. Like everybody was like grab like an hour of the day, and they were going live talking about that, and um, encouraging people to write to the FTC to write their comment. And we did that back then, way before I was creating content. We were following different creators. They were creators from TikTok, from Instagram, from YouTube. They were all going live in a 24-hour day, just talking about the same thing, encouraging people to write. And I think back then we were able to have like 1,600 comments to the FTC, where everybody was just sharing their stories about how bad MLMs are. So we've been doing this for a while now. Each time we hear about like stuff like that that the FTC wants from us, or they want some more information, like we're more than happy to um, help them with whatever it is that they need. Of course, the MLM conference has been a big help. The MLM conference is, I don't know, I think it's going to be their fifth or sixth year this year. I don't remember. But they've been doing a lot about raising awareness, bringing regulators from different countries, not only the United States, but bringing regulators from Canada and many, many other um, countries, raising awareness on the MLMs on their own countries and what they're doing to um, protect their consumers. And yeah, so each time there's something that has to do with regulators, or they want us to do something to help them out, to push the legislation or maybe a new law or whatever, we're there. Like, I'm more than happy because that's what we need. It's good that we raise awareness and everything, but we also need like the help of the regulators and government to be able um, to stop these MLM companies. We really cannot do them on our own, right?
That actually brings me to my last point, and then I'll hand it over to Megan. I think the only solution that's really going to fix this is if we have people in office who actually care about fixing the problem. So all of these sellouts who want to prioritize profit over service and duty to the American people, they need to be removed. We need to run for office. We need to take these positions from these people. Okay. And any crimes they commit, we've got to go after them. We have to hold these people accountable. And then we can go after the MLMs, right? Go after all these CEOs who are extorting and taking advantage of all these people. And then bribing. That's exactly what they're doing. They're bribing other politicians. So that's where it starts, right? And I always say this every single time. We need strong men to stand up, run for office, take office, and do every single thing they can to get this country back on track. And that is where it starts. So, by that, it's going to create conflict, of course, because that's the way politics works, unfortunately, today. But it is better than doing nothing. And it is, I think, the only way that we can really do this, I think. But, um, peaceful means then just showing up, being consistent, and there are more of us than there are of them, right? So they turn out, they vote, and slowly but surely, from local, state, federal, right, we start taking office, we start taking things back, and then we can go after and then completely eliminate MLMs with an iron fist. Because if we don't, the only thing they're going to do is redefine definitions. That's the only thing that we're going to do. So we need people in office that care, and it starts with running and taking office. What do you say, Megan?
I agree. This kind of leads into a need for campaign finance reform because the bar to even run for office is so high. I have a friend who was going to run for a local judge like office, but she was like, I don't want to spend $80,000 to run for office. I looked into it a little more, and I don't know if that's the exact figure, like, for a local office all the time, but just even running for office and then running a campaign is just, it's like a, a, a contest of who can get the most attention. And we've seen that with presidential elections. And it's like, there really needs to be a need for companies not buying a politician, for those who are running those companies or running the groups that own those companies to not be able to fund a politician. We need to, I mean, this is a huge overhaul. So, this is more of like the pie in the sky, as they say, thought about it. But if we're able to actually get people who, uh, like you said, actually care and will do what they say they're going to do, it's going to be bigger than, who's going to get the most funding, who's this. So, I mean, we really need a way to be able to like exclude any kind of donations and super PACs and all of that stuff to then actually get the right people in there. So, I think what it takes is, since all of that is really out of our control as individuals, awareness is the biggest thing that we can actually do. And, anybody listening, you don't have to have an online presence in order to do that. Just start talking to your friends. Like, as these conversations come up, do your part. I mean, that's really, as much as I would be able to just, or as much as I would love to be able to just, go right into the Oval Office and say, here are the issues, none of us can actually do that. And I mean, there's so much that bureaucracy that's stopping individuals from being able to take a stand like that. So we really have to start on our level. um but doing some things that, like Gladys mentioned, getting in touch with the FTC. Just, I mean, if we are able to kind of give them a barrage of different, like flood them with letters, with, communication. I mean, might sound, super naive, but I'm very hopeful that as we continue to do kind things like that, it will eventually make some sort of a difference. But I because like when somebody says, "Oh, we have to get somebody in office or this has to change," it's like, but what can I do? I hate feeling powerless, so I have to do something, and maybe it's just to get that energy out. But I'm like, okay, I have to go talk aggressively on social media, make a video, and then I feel better. But at the same time, those things actually do affect people. They do actually reach certain people. So, I mean, really the best place to start is by doing what we can do, what is in our control. Um, and an example of that, a couple weeks or a few weeks ago now, I actually was at a store and I ran into a girl who was friends with me, but kind of shunned me after I left the MLM. She's still in, she and her husband. And, we were like, hey, oh my gosh, nice to see you. But it was very like, get away from me. And so I was just not surprised at all. But then I saw her talking to a girl who was just, just there shopping, and then she left, the person who was my friend. And then I saw the girl that she was talking to, and I'm like, "Excuse me." I said, I swear I'm not eavesdropping, but I happen to know that the person you were talking to is involved in Amway." We got into a conversation, and I told her basically the whole playbook, and she's like, "That's what she did. She did that, she said that kind of thing. She even got my number, and oh, she just texted me." And I was like, "Yeah, she's going to ask you if you're looking for something," because they kind of were hinting at that in the conversation. And I told her all about it, and she's like, "I want no part of that. Thank you for telling me," because she was just in her, you know, like, goodwill of, like, I just made a new friend, this is awesome. So many people are unsuspecting, but yet I saw that opportunity, I was like, "I have to talk to her," and I don't wanna crush her dreams, and I told her, like, "I don't wanna crush anything for you, but I have to be real with you. This is what this is, and I wasted my 20s and 6 figures doing this. So just beware." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you, thank you." And so, I mean, there's certain times like that when, I mean, that was just an amazing experience for me. But, you get those little opportunities to make a little difference, and it does add up. So, I mean, the basically, if we can do that and then also get in touch with politicians and really be like as influential as possible with our message, I'm hopeful that that would make a difference. But we do, as you said, Jonah, we do need different people in office that will take it seriously.
Yeah.
um, so
Yeah.
it's kind of a mixed mixed reaction, I guess, from me.
Gladys has raised her hand. Go ahead and share with the class, Gladys.
Yeah, and I wanted to say this, that we talk on social media about anti-MLM, but this doesn't mean that if you're not a content creator that you cannot do anything. There's a lot of things that you can do behind the scenes, and there's a lot of things that people do behind the scenes. A lot of people share like content with their favorite content creator, because sometimes they have access to maybe accounts that have us blocked. So just sharing that content with us, that's very helpful, because a lot of people have me blocked. And sometimes just doing that, that is very helpful. Or I've talked about this in my stories, and I'm pretty sure if people have been following me, they remember whenever this happened. Whenever I see like a Herbalife or any type of MLM around my house, I cannot be quiet, you know? So there was one time, and one of them was Amway. One of them was actually Amway. Was a post that I saw from a girl in our neighborhood Facebook group that I am in, right? And she shared there like her address and everything, and I was like, you know what, this is gonna be kind of crazy, but I'm gonna go to her home and I'm gonna tell her, well, you know what, don't get involved in Alma because of this and this and this. And that's what I did. And she, of course, she looked at me like, who's this crazy lady? Right? Who's this crazy lady knocking at my door? And I'm like, look. look at search for this online, search for this, and I was like writing her like some notes for her to search. And I don't know whatever happened with her, but I guess she never posted about Amway in the neighborhood group, at least not to my own knowledge. So I hope that whatever it is that I told her made some impact. There was also another Herbalife like around my house that I also went with them and I told them, hey, you need to look at the Betting on Zero movie, etc., etc. Talk about I told them about facts about Herbalife. You need to check that channel, please. Like, and that business, they were there probably for like 2 or 3 months, and then they were gone. Like, it's pretty obvious, right? That they cannot sustain themselves. Like, it was pretty obvious. Or I don't know, maybe they were just waiting to get rid of their inventory that they already had. And the most recent one was there was one here like 2 blocks from my house, a new Herbalife. And I went with them, and each time that I pass by there, I look, and I have the hope. I swear I have the hope that one day I'm gonna pass by there and they're no longer gonna be there. And I'm still waiting for that. They've been there probably like 2 months or something like that. So I think it's just a matter of time. I went there and I did the same. I'm like, you know what? I'm doing this because I really don't want you to like waste all your money in this business. Please check the Betting on Zero movie. Please check the Facts About Herbalife channel. And I have the best intentions coming here and telling you this. And it was a good they welcome the information, but they're still there. But I also kind of understand them that they probably maybe they're trying to get rid of their inventory. I don't know, or maybe they're just I don't know, or maybe they just ignore my concerns. My hope is that someday I could give the good news that they're no longer there. But I'm keeping an eye, and you can do stuff like that. Like if you feel like if you feel it in your heart and you feel that you can do something like that, just approach somebody and be like, hey, just giving them that like the heads up, like from the bottom of your heart, like with the best intentions, not telling them they're a scammer, and not telling them that they're in a call, not telling them nothing like that, because that is only gonna put them in like defense mode. Just providing them with information and facts.
Yeah. I think that's the best way you could approach that kind of situation. Especially when you're talking to someone who is so warped and brainwashed as people who get into MLMs are. Now what I will say is that it's up to them to have that it's up to them to have that critical thinking within them to realize, hey, maybe I should, just to see what they have to say, right? That open mindedness, right? It's important that they have that open mindedness to take a look, to trust, but verify what it is that you are saying is true. And I wish I had that going into the MLM that I did. I really wish someone had told me about it beforehand, because if they had sat down with me or had approached me like you did, Gladys, I would have not committed at all. So that makes a massive difference. And that's a part of what I mean by local, right? We start locally. I would actually like to start doing some undercover stuff, you know, going into some of these meetings, right? Quote unquote business meetings, right? Unfortunately, people know me around here, and not able to do that as well. But I do plan on doing something like that. I think that would be a really cool idea to go and do, just to expose what it's actually like. What it's actually like. And so, absolutely, if you happen to see friends, family members who are getting into this and you know what's up, look, set them down and be like, hey, look, this isn't what you think it is. Yeah, and you got to realize that. So, and it doesn't just extend to friends or family. If you see something like that, like an event, right? That's just happening online, right? Why not take? Why not just stop on in? You know, whether it's a Zoom page or some kind of panel, or maybe they're trying to get together for an IRL meeting, right? We need to start taking a stand against this, and any way that we can do that, we should, right? Because it's to save it's to save everyone else from the same things that we may or may not have went through, right? So, but that's all that I have to say about this. This was a pretty a pretty good conversation. I think that we talked about a lot here, and so I'm gonna go ahead and ask you ladies here if there's any last things that you guys would like to say before we close out.
Yeah, I think we've said a lot of really great things. And just so anybody listening, if you ever have any questions, laments, or need a little bit of guidance, I know I can speak for myself. I'm more than open to any DMs on Instagram if you need to just talk to somebody or whatever. So the biggest therapy for me has been creating memes that really roast the MLM culture. So enjoy those. Do something that makes you laugh and helps you heal. And I'm available if anybody needs needs to talk about any of this. Just let me know.
Right on. And Gladys, what about you? Because I thought you were trying to say something there too.
Yeah, well, everybody everybody knows because I say this like all the time. My DMs are always open if they want to just share their experience. And I have also the website. One of the things that I like the most about the website is the section um God, I don't remember it, but it's the mental health section in the exit tools. In that section, there's this link that it's called self-compassion. It's and that's one of the things that I like to tell like every person that shares their stories with me that they got out of an MLM, they all have the same thing. They are very hard on themselves, and I think it's very important to give yourself grace and give yourself a lot of self-compassion because it is not fair to you to judge yourself with the information that you have right now, or judge your past self with the information that you have in your present. It's not fair. So just give yourself a lot of self compassion. And that link, it goes to this mental health counselor, and there are these audios that are good for self compassion. They're like um larger are audios, like I don't know, 10-20 minutes, or if you don't have a lot of time, there's like 5-minute audios. But it's all about having a lot of self-compassion with yourself. So if you're healing from something and you feel like you're being really hard on yourself, click on those, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be very helpful, because that's the pattern that I see with a lot of people that are leaving MLMs. They're just too hard on themselves. Yes, they can hold themselves accountable, but they also need to be aware that it's not all their fault. part of it, it's their fault, but the other part, it's not. And that's the part that they need to be, um, and give themselves a lot more self compassion, you know?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Both of you guys, I agree with that. Yeah, yeah. Give yourself some grace. Absolutely, give yourself some grace. Right. There's a lot of things that you didn't know about going into it, but you know now and you know better. Right. So understand what happened, accept it. Right. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting, but forgive yourself for it, and then move on and do what you can to help others from what you went through. Right. So that is the best way I think we could end that on. I will absolutely add all of that stuff into the description so that you guys can take a look at all that stuff. Gladys has the deets. She spills the tea there a lot, so she's got all the info for you. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up there. Thanks so much, Megan and Gladys, for joining. And this was a very awesome first podcast here. Hopefully, more and more to come. And hopefully, we can bring more into the podcast so that we can have a big group of people talking about this. That would be awesome. And also, if you guys, just like Megan said, if you guys want or need someone to talk to, whether you're getting out of an MLM or something like that or the other, make sure you reach out to one of us. Okay. Um, I'm not that scary. I'm a big teddy bear, I promise you. Uh, Megan's really sweet, and so is Gladys. Okay. So they will absolutely be there for you and help you however they can. All right. So you're not in this alone. You never will. You never have. Okay. So that being said, thanks so much for watching. I wish you all a lovely day. I wish Megan and Gladys a lovely day. You guys make sure again go and check their pages out, their YouTubes, their socials. Go ahead and check them out, and go over and support them. All right. With that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off here. Thanks so much for watching, guys. You guys have an awesome day. Love you all. Talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.